So, Dawn,
So, Jacob.
do you remember the time we photographed a Trash the Dress together?
I sure do.
All right. So first off, what is even a Trash the Dress?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So I haven't done very many of them, but the main portion is that usually after a wedding or multiple sessions, when the wedding is all done, the bride and groom will want to do a session where they kind of jump into a body of water, right?
Yes. In some semblance of wedding clothes.
Correct. They usually tend to be very funny photos. I mean, we've had everyone from actual, like, a photo session, like an hour-long session, to literally just a bride jumping into the pool
Yes.
at the end of a wedding because the place had a pool. So it doesn't have to be formal, or it doesn't have to be, it can be impromptu, but that's basically what a Trash the Dress is.
Yeah, I had one of my weddings that I shot freelance where it was during the wedding that she told me she wanted the last photo of the gallery to be them jumping in the pool. It was like the wedding was at their house.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sure.
Sure.
Go for it.
You do you. And usually with the dresses, though, it's been everything from their actual wedding dresses to just a simple dress they bought, a little simple white dress they bought at a store. A lot of times like a cheaper dress because they know it's getting ruined. They're never going to wear it again.
Right. Well, and not just that it's getting ruined.
Yeah.
One of the things about Trash the Dress is we're going to be in bodies of water, so you need to consider some safety. And those wedding gowns, with like a 10-foot train.
The 100-pound wedding dress?
Yeah. All of the beads and the, yeah.
You're going to sink right to the bottom.
Immediately.
But on this particular one, though, was at Typhoon Lagoon.
Yeah, it was.
Of all the places in the world. And this was a couple that I had photographed their wedding. And then I had photographed multiple park sessions with them as well. So I had already kind of had a rapport with them. And it was going to be me and myself. And I'd have a lighting assistant to help with the lights, help me get some gear because we were going to be in the water. This was all new. No one had ever done this. And if they had done it, they'd never done it to this scale. I don't know if that's the best way to
I don't think
describe it.
so. I don't think anyone had done it in the wave pool.
Yeah. So I wanted a second photographer because I knew that if I was in the water, I was only going to be kind of stuck with one angle. And sometimes just one lens. Like once I was in there, I wasn't going to be like, well, let me just change. Because we were up into water to our chest and sometimes to our shoulders.
Right.
For certain shots.
Well, let's backtrack a second. Explain like your whole plan.
Oh, yeah.
And then where a second photographer fit into that plan.
So if you've been to the wave pool, you know, it starts off very shallow and then goes all the way to like 20 feet deep. So we had lots of plans of, I wanted to do stuff around the edges because I realized, you know, once you get them wet, as my voice cracks, once you get them wet, there's no turning back. I know that sounds dumb, but it's true. Like once you get their hair wet, it's it.
You get one chance.
So I wanted to make sure we had a variety of photos of them, like, you know, we did photos of them like walking hand in hand along the water line.
And like sitting on the rocks at the edge of the water, like shooting across the water.
Dry.
Yes. Majority dry. The tips of her dress might have been, his suit pants were a little damp.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point. And then it progressed into, then we did some running into the water. And then once we got in the water again, then it was just pure like, you know, watery romantic. But I also knew once, like I said, I get to that point, I wanted someone else to at least be over my shoulder, someone that could stand from the shore or like from one of the two, I don't call them cliffs on each side, that could shoot, you know, with like a 200 or a 300 millimeter lens. And
well, because you wanted some photos where it was like the couple and then all you saw around the couple was just water.
Correct.
From above.
And then I had also plans of them like he was going to pick her up, and I wanted some of those like reaction shots. I wanted some of those candids. I was shooting really wide too because it was a picturesque location, so I needed some tidies. And again, I didn't have someone else to do that. My assistant was there holding a light.
It's funny. You really shouldn't put light stands into a body of water.
I do things differently. This was also at sunset in May.
April.
End of April. So it had emptied out early, normal time, but early. And then the sunset was literally right at that time. So we had this amazing light. So I wanted to light them to get the sunset. I didn't want to blow out the sky. The sky was too amazing. And then the water was crystal clear. So I wanted those mirror reflection shots with the sunset. So I knew I was going to need lights. And I knew that my assistant wouldn't be able to do anything else but hold a light stand in the water without dropping it and electrocuting us all.
And pray she didn't fall over.
Yeah, she's fine. So I brought, obviously, the camera. I had a 24-70, which was pretty much what I used. I had a 7200, but I'm pretty sure we didn't bring it. We left it on the beach somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we also had a bagged underwater camera to do any underwater shots, which we'll get into, but that was hard as hell. So anyway, that's why I wanted Dawn there as the second to really capture tight, compressed images, just water, things that I couldn't do because I was going to be limited in there.
Right. And I can't, in order for me to do this, I came straight from another wedding.
You did.
So maybe I wasn't as appropriately outfitted for the day, maybe in just a dress and like bike shorts.
Well, I wasn't sure like what I was supposed to wear.
It's a really weird
situation. Because everyone told me, so I was like, do I just take off my shirt? Do I wear like swim trunks?
I just got the visual of you doing this without a shirt on.
Do I wear underwear? Like, I don't know. Like, what?
Do you wear your regular dress black?
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about that here in a second, too. So, you know, it was all kind of, we'd never done it, so there was really no uncomfortable. But, like, I ended up wearing swim shorts and a, what do you call them? Like a surfer.
Oh, like a,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? The long sleeve, but they're for surfers, so they don't.
Rash guard.
Rash guards. Because I felt that was appropriate, but like.
We do sports a lot.
Big sports ball people. So that's what we wore. And then the couple, obviously we told you what they wore. And then in terms of makeup, though, I want you to talk about, though, like what was important for her. Because again, we were getting in there and once they got soaked.
Right. So if I remember correctly, I think she did have makeup on.
I do too.
Because we did a lot beforehand with them out of the water. I don't think she had anything special done with her hair. No, I think it was just down.
Yeah.
But I do think she had makeup on. So I'm sure she hired the same hair and makeup artist that she had for all of her like photo sessions and wedding day. And any of the professional artists are really good at locking in. I guess Florida humidity is almost as bad as jumping in a pool.
You're already dumping water over your face every minute.
So her makeup didn't run at all. So she had to have just had waterproof liner, mascara, and just because
I know that was something I was going to look for. I think we talked about it going into it. Be like, hey, if you start noticing, like she's been crying because the photo session is not going her way. No, it's because of the water. It's because of the water. But yeah, there was never any.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And even her hair was like.
Yeah, well, she had
it got curly, but like good curly. No offense.
Yeah, I would just look like a drowned rat if I did that.
So, you know, we had all these, this is all the stuff we'd planned out. This was not just a last minute. We knew about this for a month. So it was something we literally did a lot of thinking and planning. It was not something we just went into it. We had ideas. We pretty much stuck to it, but we were also able to kind of change here and there because one of the things that we were allowed to is they said we could turn on the wave pool. And of course I wanted that because in my head I had these like ideas of like, I don't know, Gone with the Wind or something where they're laying, I don't know if that's the movie, but they're laying, you know, like Great Movie Ride where they're laying on the water and they're laying on the beach and the water like laps up over them as they're like canoodling.
Yes.
But when we got there, since the park had been closed, the water was so crystal clear, like we said, I was like, do not turn the wave pool on. Do not. So we did all the photos without it. And then at the very end, we had them turn it on. And it wasn't, like it was cool, but it wasn't good. Like it wasn't as good as the crystal clear water.
The most exciting part of that was getting to hear how loud it actually is when they turn on the wave pool. Because like I've never been in an empty water park before. It sounded like a cannon going off and then like this tidal wave just heading straight for you. It's a little intimidating, not gonna lie.
And we couldn't we tried, but getting some of the photos of them like in the waves or even at the bottom, it just didn't work.
Yeah, you just start to look like you're drowning.
Yeah, you're trying not to die. So, and in the end, like I said, I'm glad we did that last because if we had started with that, then the water, that clear, crystal clear water, we would have never gotten. And those are what I love.
So tell us how they turned out, Jacob.
Yeah. So, again, I'm the lead. I bring Dawn along because she's one of my best photographer friends. And I take some of my favorite images of all time. These are phenomenal images in my opinion. And I never say that. I hate all my photos. But these were like, romance cover.
Mm-hmm.
So then while we're there though, Dawn has an idea.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly. You can tell your idea.
Around the time of this session, I was also working for another photography studio. They were based at another theme park, and they had stations set up around all the different hotels, mainly by the pools, right? So I would get pictures of the kids coming down the slide and jumping into the pool, and parents would order these really cute prints for their summer beach houses and things like that. And one of the things that we used to do there were hair flips. So we'd get the kids in the water, dunk their heads upside down, flip their head over, and, you get like a cool pattern with all the water droplets trailing. So with this particular couple, the groom had long hair as well as the bride. And I was like, hey, do you want me to do a hair flip?
And as a good lead, I had never thought in a million years of a hair flip, even though like you could have seen Little Mermaid, I should have thought about it.
Right.
But I recognized that it was a good idea. So I was like, absolutely, I leave you to it.
Yes.
I'm in your hands.
And I do think this was very close to the end of the session
was.
because the sun was dropping.
Yeah.
It was pretty close to the horizon at this point. So we didn't have a lot of time. And we wanted the goal of like the hair trail, like the water trails kind of making a heart, very cute, right? But I was still on that long lens that you want to be on to shoot from the cliffs, except that now I'm in the pool with you guys.
I was like, come on in. Water's fine.
So composition was not our strength at this point. But I did my best to fit them in the frame. Got a really great hair flip photo. We got the trails kind of making a heart shape.
We did a couple times.
Yeah, we did a few. And I had so much experience like teaching little kids to do this. It was pretty easy to get the adults to cooperate and do what they needed to do. And yeah, I was pretty happy with, it wasn't my best image ever, but it was a cool shot.
Meanwhile, my photos go out on social media and they go pretty viral.
Sure.
They went pretty nuts. So I'm pretty excited. We actually started booking more all of a sudden.
Right.
Because people had never seen it and now they wanted to do it.
And then now they knew that they could do it.
Exactly. But Dawn's photo, which still makes me mad to this day.
So we had a thing within our office where we got to submit images for a photo of the month. And these were not voted on for like actual photography skill, right? These were voted on by like general admin staff in our building and in other departments.
The civilians.
Sure, right. So I had submitted it for photo of the month for that month.
Which is weird because I'm pretty sure I've submitted those other ones too.
And it just happened to win, okay? It just happened to win photo of the month. By the way, this was 7 years ago.
Yeah. Dawn's only photo of the month ever.
Jacob's still salty about it.
But,
we get to the end of that year, the end of 2017. And, they take all of the photos of the month and put it up for a vote for photo of the year.
And who won? Who won?
Lo and behold,
oh my God.
My hair flip picture.
I give you one photo.
Hey, I can't help it if I took advantage of the opportunity.
I don't think we delivered any of your other photos from that session. I'm pretty sure they're like, no.
Okay, but I do remember there was the one where he was holding her in the water. She had her like arms up around his neck and he had her like bridal style in the water. And I was up on the cliff by the lifeguard stand. They at least got that.
Yeah, so they got two.
But yeah, so it was photo of the year. Got enlarged, printed on the wall, hung there for everyone to see, except that the photo of the month program kind of like went defunct.
Yeah.
So those same pictures
still up there
were on the wall for like at least 5 years.
Easily.
At least 5 years. I know they came down this year. They might have come down last year.
It was definitely through COVID. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God. Still makes me mad. And those are the only photos I've ever loved.
You're so full of crap.
Finally, I was like, you know what? I think I did a good job.
Finally.
Nope, Dawn did better.
You mean you didn't have a period of self-loathing after
yes.
session?
I have one now, I have one then. But just this one time, I was like, we nailed it. We got it.
We totally nailed it.
But it was a great session. And it did create so much repeat business, like not repeat business, but enough that like we ended up shooting. I shot like 2 or 3 more. I think you shot one with someone else, but they switched them always to the morning because of how late, once you get into the summers. So like it was never the same because the early morning you didn't get the sunrise because the sunrise was on the other side. You didn't get a sunset. It was just kind of harsh sun.
And it was a special time of year when we did it because it was close enough to park closing for them to keep staff on. Yeah. They didn't have to bring in all new people to be there for us. Whereas, like, if the park closed at 5 and sunset was at 8:30,
they wouldn't do it.
Because we had to have lifeguards for the wave pool. We had regular staff escorting us in and out of the park. Managers. We had to come in through backstage, managers. Yeah. So it was a special time where it worked. And I see why it didn't work other times of the year and why they moved it to the morning. But then it didn't really work for the photos anymore.
It was the one time, though. And like I said, though, this was not a cheap thing. The couple paid for all of this. Obviously, they paid for the photo session, but they also had to pay for Typhoon Lagoon to remain open. They had to pay for the, lifeguards staying after because they got paid.
Well, and they had to pay for an entirely new outfit that was going to get destroyed, right? Because they had their wedding
and
dress.
hair and makeup again. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, we've done trash dresses where literally they just jump in the pool at the end of the night. So, I mean, you don't have to go all out. But this one will always be memorable.
Always. And actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I was with you for this wedding because I got that banging shot from getting ready in her Grand Floridian room with the train of her dress. I was thinking about her regular dress. The train of her dress with the curtains and the sunlight coming through.
That's probably why I wanted you back.
Yep. Plus, I had rapport with the couple.
That's what I meant. I'd rather have you back so you know them and they know you and there's no... Oh, here's a new guy. Get to know them.
It is kind of weird, like being in a pool with, like it's a different set of comfort. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we're getting wet. Things get kind of see through. Like it's it's a different. It gets a little bit more intimate than other shoots. So I wanted someone that was. I wanted to make sure we were all comfortable.
Right, and having to make sure clothing stays in place and things because you are swimming in in a dress. And just not a normal activity.
I can also talk about underwater photography.
Oh, yes. How did those go?
Awful.
The
worst thing I've ever done. Like, I hated it so much. Also, I have the breath control of a 4-year-old. So I was like kiss underwater where I'm sitting there just like literally dying.
Okay, so when the same company I worked for, I would do underwater photos too. That job was 100% commission. So if I wanted to make money that day, I had to make a sale. And if I was having a hard time, I would bring out the underwater camera because it was hard to deny people, like they didn't want to miss out on that very unique picture that they couldn't do themselves. But I also have the breath control of like a 2-year-old child. And so I couldn't hold my breath long enough a lot of times. So I would just put the camera under the water.
I was learning that. It took me a while, but then I started doing that too. But then I didn't know what I was shooting. I was like, I hope it's on them. Just keep kissing. You're fine. Hold your breath.
And then it's so hard. People are very buoyant.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get someone to go down, let alone people in clothes.
Correct.
To like go down in the water and stay down long enough to do anything before
and do something cute at the same time.
Or I don't know if it's just me, but whenever I go under, my butt starts to blow back up.
I don't have that problem.
So then I'm like, my head is still trying to be underwater.
I would pay a lot of money to see a photo.
Oh my gosh!
I couldn't get the thing to focus. Plus, trying to focus through the plastic lens cover. Oh my God. And then trying to hit the shutter button under the hard plastic so it doesn't get wet.
Yeah. Underwater housing, well, at least back then. And I know we didn't have brand new gear that we were using, but back then it was not easy.
No. And like I said, you'll see I got a couple, but like in my head, I had way more envisions. And I was like, nope, we're going to move on. We got it.
Well, while we're talking about underwater photography.
Okay.
We just had the Olympics.
We did.
A few weeks ago, and the Paralympics are still coming up. And, the more in depth I get in my career, the more I'm like always looking for the photographers. Like, I just want to see what other people do. What we do is so different from what a journalist does or a sports photographer. Like, it's night and day different, right?
Big time.
But my favorite scenario, I saw a reel from one of the photographers who was assigned to cover the triathlon. And so for the swimming portion, he always tries to be like right by the starting line, and in the water, so he can get that shot of the swimmers going over him, like in that rainbow shape, getting into the pool as they dive in. Except at the Paris Olympics, he was in the Seine.
Yep.
And so he had the added struggle of competing with the current. So this poor guy not only was trying to balance his camera, so because he likes to also try to shoot somewhere he's like half the lens is underwater, half is above the water. So he's trying to balance that in the water that's moving because there's a current. But then he was also moving. So they had to tie him off. So his left hand had a rope attached to it, and there was someone on the shore holding on to him so he didn't float down the river.
They could give him like a buoy or something, a dinghy. There's nothing.
Put him on a raft?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can't imagine. It's hard enough to shoot with one hand above water without your other arm being
And meanwhile,
dragged behind you.
There's guys in the pool that have like a $1 million camera lens that is attached to in the pool that can move.
Yeah, like on a slide.
Where they're not even in the pool. They're just like, got the shot. Yes. And it's following the swimmers.
The lead swimmers.
And this asshole's in the water just with a string.
It's not fair.
It's not. But that would be us. That's the thing. They'd be like, hey, you guys, you want to go to the Olympics? Yeah. You going to shoot it? Sure. All right. You're in the river with the string.
I have this dream of going to the LA Olympics as a photographer, but I don't want to actually photograph the events. I want to be like, I want to capture, when they like run into the stands to their husband, or when they, mom is crying and like waving the sign, like all the human interest stuff around the Olympics.
It's the same people, you know that.
I know.
They just go.
I know, but I would be bad at the sports
okay.
part. That's what I'm saying. I don't know that in 4 years I could suddenly be skilled in that way to photograph.
You just put the camera at like 1,000th of a second, and then you just hold the shutter down
for the whole time.
Yeah, till it starts smoking, and then the photos go to the cloud, and then someone else deals with the culling and the editing.
Oh,
that's all you do.
That is the dream.
Yeah.
One day.
You're like 2/8, 1,000th of a second. Got it.
Something tells me there might be more to it than that.
I'm pretty confident that's it.
Also, I don't really feel like being like one of the basketball or volleyball photographers at the end of the court, just getting trampled over every time someone goes out of bounds. Not really feeling it.
Well, maybe we'll see. We'll go to the Olympics. We'll check it out. I'll be at Disneyland. You can go to
Okay. Fair.
But, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing, though, since we are actual working photographers and working way too much, even though this is our slow time of the year.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is good. What did you shoot this week?
So I had a few different things this week that pretty much like is the epitome of what the majority of my work is. So I did have a wedding. It is slow season in Florida for weddings.
We don't shoot in August.
Jacob has a rule.
I try.
Tries to have a rule.
Work,
but actually, there are a lot of photographers and videographers I've met who refuse to book in July and August in Florida.
Hot.
I don't have such a hard and fast rule, but there aren't as many bookings, thank goodness. But it was a long wedding day. It was like 10 hours. Really big wedding party, like 14 bridesmaids and groomsmen. So it was a long day. A lot of it was outside because it was one of those really gorgeous venues where like it only makes sense to do pictures outside because it's so pretty. So I had a wedding. Then I photographed a naturalization ceremony at the courthouse. So
do tell.
Yes. So
because you don't let me do these, so
I didn't invite you. No, sorry. So you have to get a court order in order to be able to do it. I can't just like bring a buddy.
I'm fine.
So for the naturalization ceremonies, these are people who have just become a U.S. citizen. This is the ceremony in which they become a citizen. And since it's in the federal courthouse, you're not allowed to bring electronics into the courthouse. You can't bring phones, you can't bring cameras, you can't bring any of that. And so the court has made a program where they hire a photographer and pay for each person to have a digital and printed photo sent to them from the ceremony. Cool. So some months, they do this once a month in Orange County. So some ceremonies, the judge stays and takes photos with each petitioner. Other times they can't stay. So it's just the person and if their family's there watching the ceremony, but they get like little American flags and they have their certificate of citizenship. and we get to do photos. And then, like I said, I email a photo to them and then order prints for them.
Gotcha.
And mail them to their house.
You just order the prints.
Yeah, I order the prints. I could do it either way, and
I didn't know if like you physically had to do it or if it was part of someone else did it, part of a package thing.
Yeah, no, I just log on somewhere and order the prints and ship it to them, which is a lot of admin work.
Yeah.
but it's something you're like, everyone is so happy to be in those pictures, and it's really nice that I get to do that for them. And then the last job I had this week was a bar mitzvah. So this was actually a b'nai mitzvah. It was 2 brothers. And we didn't do it at a temple. They had a cantor that they'd been doing all their studying with. And so typically a mitzvah ceremony is done when a Jewish young adult turns 13. So in this case, one brother was 13, one was 14. And they got to do their service together with their cantor. And so I just went there before the service started, and we did pick kind of staged photos. Most temples don't allow you to photograph during the service. We've had a few where we've gotten to do them, but most times they don't. And normally when we have, we were just at a golf course clubhouse. So normally that's a situation where I could stay and actually photograph the service, but they weren't having a party. They were just having lunch afterwards. So we just kind of staged everything, and they did lots of family photos. So yeah, that was really fun. I would have invited you to come. Well, I did.
You did,
but you couldn't because
I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
So we have a mutual friend, photographer friend, that has a company that goes to conventions, started here in Orlando. And he does cosplay photography. There's a lot of people that do cosplay photography, but he actually buys a booth or gets a booth and creates a couple of studios in there. And in the studio, we have full control of the lighting. Mm-hmm. We have, creativeness, gels, colors, and then we offer digital downloads of prints right there for them if they want to. The session is free. Dawn has helped before. Mm-hmm. I've helped a few times. I didn't have any other jobs this week, and this was before Dawn asked me for the mitzvah. So, but yeah, we drove the 20-something hours to Chicago. Well, there was a group of us that drove with the gear.
Right, because there's a lot of gear to bring.
Because we literally had 2 full studios, soft boxes, lights, backgrounds, a full print station, so some computers, review station with monitors.
Yeah, like actual TV screens.
Yeah. So we were in a 30 by 30 session, 30 foot by 30 foot booth. So we had a humongous booth.
Wow.
And then the rest of them flew down and met us there. Mm. So we did drive all night, then got there at luckily the convention center opened at 8 a.m. for load-in. Mm-hmm. So we got there at like 8 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Just unpacked, loaded.
I would have been very cranky.
The crazy thing about this is like, when we got up there, they didn't really have like a dock like here in Orlando. Mm-hmm. This convention center, which is about half the size of our MegaCon here, they were just like, yeah, just drive in onto the floor.
What?
Yeah, you got to drive your personal car or a U-Haul. And we were like, it felt like driving through Magic Kingdom at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The booths were all set up and you were just like driving in.
What?
Yeah.
That is wild.
We're like, are you sure? They're like, yeah. We get in there and everyone, like, they're just minivans and U-Haul trucks in there.
Okay, so how many times did you almost get run over?
No, because we were in the back, luckily.
Okay.
But yeah, if you were one of the booths, like, at the front doors.
You would have just been...
There was a couple times where I had to get out, though, and be like, all right, like, come on in, careful, because it was tight. Mm-hmm. You're driving, like, think of, like, walking through the convention center, but it was already set up. So you're driving minivans and...
Mm-mm.
It's fine.
I would have been like, nope, not me. I'll carry everything from the parking
at
lot.
least it did make that better than that long walks that we normally have.
Yeah.
So we did that for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Did pretty successful for a con that we had never been to, had never shot at, no marketing. Just showed up. Again, it's not my thing. It's not like my personal project. I'm just helping out a friend, just like you've helped out before. Mm-hmm. So, but it was pretty successful.
Yeah.
And then we drove back 24 hours to drive home.
Better you than me.
And then I slept for Wednesday, Thursday.
So. Yeah, I bet. I would love to go to one, like to see this happen at other cons and like help out at other.
This was
cons,
like a test run because he had never done it outside of Orlando before. Mm-hmm. I think he did it like in some like Tampa, I guess, but I have outside of Central Florida.
Right.
So this was a test, distance. And overall, I think the test worked. It was a proof that the concept is successful. Mm-hmm. We just got to figure out better ways to get there, and
Yeah.
Just those little things. But
Did I hear that you went to Buc-ee's?
yeah, like 6 times.
There are that many Buc-ee's?
Yeah, like if you go on I-75 up through Georgia, there was like 3 Buc-ee's.
Oh my gosh.
So you can literally time it out. We're like, time to get gas, Buc-ee's. We didn't have to leave the highway.
Okay, did you have a favorite food item that you tried from Buc-ee's?
Well, I've been to Buc-ee's before, so I didn't really get anything.
Okay.
Because we were there at like 4 a.m. and the
Oh.
thought of like a really beefy brisket
Brisket
sandwich.
sandwich, that's what I've had.
Was like, I probably shouldn't because I'm also on 40 hours of no sleep.
Yeah.
So I tried to listen to my body. But, their sandwiches are, I don't think they're the best in the world, but compared to any other gas station,
Right.
like,
And pretty good price, too.
yeah, great price, clean bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
cheap fuel. Like, it's just a nice place to stop. You know, you're not going to get murdered at 4 a.m.
Right.
So, I like it. It was fine.
Yeah. Did anyone buy a Buc-ee's jumpsuit?
No jumpsuits,
Mm.
but a lot of food and, there's, I don't know if you know, there's a couple there, you know them, but he had bought the large drink
Mm-hmm.
and he thought that he got free refills with it. So we go to the next Buc-ee's, and by the third Buc-ee's, he was like, "Oh, you get refills?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, the sign says it's like $1.50 for each refill." And he had been going to each one, filling it up, and just walking out. He's like, "Yeah, you paid the $1.50 the one time you paid in South Georgia was good for the entire country
For the rest of eternity.
The styrofoam, as long as the styrofoam cup doesn't start breaking
Hasn't
down,
dissolved yet.
you're good." I was like, "Yeah, man, I don't think that's how that works." And he was like, "Oh, okay. Here's $1.50.
Oh my gosh.
So,
That's great.
yeah,
Cool. Well, I'm excited to see what we get up to this next week.
I know. It should be exciting. All right.
Okay.
We end this awkwardly. Bye.